Thank you. Just one more additional information. I did provide their numbers because I ended up just recording, because sometimes they would phone you in the car and I would take the name and surname and then number. But quite a number of them, if not all of them, would have made submissions to or an application to the Commission to appear. So there may be correspondence with the Commission already from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Noted.
The next person who also lodged complaints formally by writing emails to us was Mary Haas, who is an academic and a long-standing observer of policing oversight in KwaZulu-Natal and elsewhere. And she did send correspondence to me and to Parliament Portfolio Committee on policing from time to time, complaining about various issues. Among the issues that she raised was systemic governance weaknesses experienced or observed by her in policing, including task team operating in parallel and sometimes outside sub-formal command, oversight and budget structures. Her concerns outlined the issues later identified independently in the Marai report and SAP's internal governance discussions. Some of these complaints were quite serious when you read them, and at some point I did have a discussion with National Commissioner around these matters. I'm just indicating that she was one of the people who made submissions. And then there was another person called Patricia Morgan Mashale, who also sent a number of complaints on an ongoing basis, I think from July, shortly after we got appointed, sending a lot of material to us on a regular basis. And at some point, I requested assistance to understand exactly her standing and what her role is and so on. But even after IGI, that is Inspector General of Intelligence, had indicated some aspects around her, I continued to receive and I continued to read, but I never actually sat down to deal with the matters that she was raising. I never sat down with her, nor did I have any discussion with her on telephone. I just received and looked and read what she was saying. And then the third and the last issue of these complaints arises from a Forte case that is alleged to be in violation of human rights. This was reported in media before I arrived, as I perused matters from attorneys from Bradley, Conrad, Halton, Chiclaw firm. And some of these articles were carried by Daily Maverick, and we set out and indicate what they were all about, and I proposed that I don't go through everything there, but those matters are clearly identified. It is now public knowledge, I'm now on page 35, that Ms. Becker has since requested to give evidence before the Madlanga Commission about what she alleges as abuse and violation of her rights perpetuated by members of the PKTT during her arrest In her statement before the Commission, Ms. Becker has detailed the extent of the abuse, as she alleges, she endured during her arrest. And Ms. Becker explains the abuse she experienced in Part B of her statement, paragraph 31 to 79, which I attached as SM16. So it bears mention that some of these complaints referred to in this statement were also discussed with the National Commissioner, as I indicated. Now, the challenge posed by these examples is this. The National Political Killings Task Team has for some time been credibly accused of systematic human rights violations. And I must indicate that it's quite concerning to hear stories here and there of members of PKTT or National Political Killings Task Team wearing balaclavas when they do some of the operations that you wouldn't expect them to do so, even though I'm not specific on the matters, but I'm merely indicating what complainants have raised in their complaints, the ones that are listed there. A culture that is not in consonant, in my view, with a democracy and what is expected of police, and it's quite concerning. Hence my inclusion of this matter here. So my view is, and still is, it is possible for police, whether in units, whether in teams, to perform their duties successfully without having to violate any human rights. We are a country that has made a choice that we recognize human rights, that is, rights of individuals in the country that must be observed as we police South Africa all the time. But I'm not suggesting that police shouldn't have freedom to or liberty to exercise their powers within the Constitution and within acceptable practices in relation to use of force whenever that is necessary. Now, I go further to say that I do have an understanding that there are arguments out there that it's preferable to keep the National Political Killings Task Team because of its unique focus and ability to combat organized crime. And I want to state it that that's a wrong argument, because the National Political Killings Task Team was not designed to combat organized crime in general, but they were established and designed to focus on political killings, which, in other words, killings which are politically related. And they have been doing that, strictly just that, political killings or assassinations or murders that are deemed to be political related, not other matters, not any other matter, as it were. And I will indicate later through figures or some stats that make an effort to make us understand what the Political Killings Task Team was all about. But I don't think that it is fair to devote substantial resources to one category of killings in the country, which is politically related killings and not any other killing. When the evidence is that there is an urgent need to focus on all matters. Ever since I got, or we got appointed to the ministry, what the concern of Cabinet has been, the concern of the Portfolio Committee has been, the concern of the public has been, it has been a very high and unacceptable rate of murder in South Africa. That has been the concern that has been drummed into our heads all the time, and we believe in that the rate of murders alone, not just crime, but murders in particular, is very high, unacceptably so. That's why, among other things, I took the initiative of calling a meeting together with the deputy ministers of the National Commissioner in November and provincial commissioners and the deputy national commissioners, just to focus on 4 crimes that we believed by that time we had observed as being a major concern in the country. That is murders, proliferation of firearms, proliferation of, if I could use that word, of drugs in the country, and GBV&F. We focused on those only. Now, those kinds of situations or those crimes, as we identified them in November, they rather dictate to your conscience and yourself as a need, pointing to a need, maybe not exclusively, but almost exclusively, that you need to attend to those because they are the ones who characterize criminality in South Africa more than any other. When people say there's crime in South Africa, they're pointing to murders. They are pointing to these other 3 that I've indicated. Hence, our focus. Much as political killings, as identified in 2018, are important, there is murders of councillors and other officials at the local sphere. Much it is important, and it was important to attend to that. But there is a need to recognize that outside that number or that category of people, there is a lot that is happening. And therefore, we can't keep on focusing on just one category, which in my view is small compared to the other, as statistics will indicate.